we had a lot going on in these last two chapters for Galaxias. Man, I'm pretty happy that the series decided to go bi-weekly. I feel like it just makes the art more consistent. I don't have to worry about any like weird missteps in the art style. But in the chapter one, I will say it with Antares again. If I'm pronouncing her name correctly, it doesn't look like she's really struggling. Even in the points where Narade, has a moment, gets a counterattack in, he's like, okay, now I'm gonna put in some more effort because you get a point in this chapter where she's like, I would assume that he's letting her just kind of get a little bit of a pin moment in order to get information out of her because she's giving a little bit of hint of knowledge of his memories, and she brings up the like the king killer talking about Holst, and with him she's like, well, I'm not really going to tell you anything about your memories in detail because your memories would result in the end of the kingdom. I'm curious as to what that in like specific detail is going to result in. My guess is because we know that the one shot, if you've seen the one shot, it was a completely different style. It's gonna be with kaiju. So with Narade, it's like, well, okay, well, what do we know from that could carry over? What if you could easily have a scenario to where if he was some form of like super powerful behemoth creature, maybe before the Dragon King was like, I gotta unite everything, there was this one dragon folk that was the dominant kind of roamer of the continent. And, he'd go around do these things. This is where he decided to take root, was this place, and this is where all the dragon people decided to stay. Maybe that was a thing where it's like, oh, well, at one point we were actually a very discriminated and hunted race, but because of this one dragon folk guy, he was able to essentially like power push everyone away, and then through events, Dragon King showed up, and then through events they had to get rid of Narade's memory because he's a threat, and stuff in the story that once we get to, it's like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense why this happened. This happened. This makes sense why these characters wouldn't reveal X, Y, or Z, and all these different things. But when it comes down to it, like in this chapter, even in the moment where, like I say, he like grabs her sword and like further pushes it in behind him, and he's able to like steady it out, get a melee attack in, just nothing crazy, but enough to push her away and to get back on his feet and to kind of get prepared for more combat. And I like that she grabbed her sword with her tail because it just shows again her level of skill in both usage of her tail, and I would assume with her sword she can use her tail from her tail instead of just using her hands. But also, I would imagine that her sword, I think her sword is mostly just for like direct, like, oh yeah, this is what I normally use in combat because I don't want to use my full power. I would assume her tail is like her real sword because like there's so many blades on it. It looks so sharp. So I would assume that whenever she gets fully serious, like that sword, like if you put her in a scenario where I imagine like her sword shattered, that's where she's like, okay, I tried to do this the easier way, and then she's gonna start using her tail, and that's gonna be where her full power comes in, and where she's like maybe does these like way crazier cleaves. But I didn't really think in this chapter, even for a moment, that it looked like Narade was going to be able to really pull through like a decisive victory, because it just seems like this is a fight where he wasn't going to win. It seems way more like he's in the scenario where he's strong. If he had his full power, it'd be a different scenario. But he's still, as we know, he doesn't have like a full grasp on everything that he's got available to him. He doesn't even really know what his power directly is. So it's like Narade is in a way of nerf that I just didn't think it was possible for him to beat her. Because like the only way a character like this I think would win is be like, I'm the brand, I'm the newest Zodiac. I'm the weakest. I just got in, so it's like, okay, this is the bar. Or a character that's like retired that used to be in, that's just like, oh, I'm powerful, but I'm not at my full scale yet. But this is like your first taste of people at this general level. But it it cut away like right after he got to his feet and started to kind of like get his power starting going. But I still didn't really think even then that it was looking good for him. In the chapter as well, you see Geo, and she's trying to climb over some rubble, and she falls, and like not only does she fall and it just looks bad, but she like hits her head too, and it's just a double L, like insult to injury when you do something like that. That would just make me even more frustrated. Like it's something about it. It's just like a straight. It'd be like you fall down, you hurt yourself, and then a bird flies over, and it just conveniently shits like right on your chest or something. Just wrong place, wrong time. You're laying there like, man, I can't move very well. How could this get worse? And then just shit on the chest. Terrible. You hate birds after that point. But as it were, you have her showing that she she's not able to really do anything on her own. And I think this is on purpose, and not just obviously like this is showing in the chapter of like, yeah, she's can't really do anything. She kind of gets in the way a bit, but I think it's more so just to show her determination, to show that even though, again, I give credit to any character that even if they aren't able to accomplish anything, they're aware that they're just aware that they can't really do a whole lot, so they're constantly trying to figure out what they can do to what they can give for value into a team scenario, into any scenario really, that even if it's like, yeah, you added 1 point to the board, it's like, well, that 1 point could really help. Like, even if it doesn't end up being like that, it's like you still contributed the best you could. And it's not like, yeah, guys, I showed up and I cheered everyone on. Some characters are really good at morale and cheering other people on. They excel at it. But some characters, like, you just have to kind of, like, they got to take their L's and they got to wait until it's their time. Because, I mean, like, her dad is clearly an important person in the verse, so it's like she's going to have some form of dormant, latent powers. You just don't really know exactly that's going to result in. But it was a little mean to kind of further push that, because she's like, I know, I got to go back. She's like trying to figure out what to do. I got to go back and I got to help Narade. He's losing. I got to go try and save him. I think personally, because this is one thing to mention, like she's rushing. She kind of just goes, even though it's not a good idea. She has no powers. There's nothing she can really directly do. But like you see Narade like right beforehand, and he's like completely on the ground. She's pulling her sword out. She's got her tail like pinned on around his neck, where like she could pull out her sword, swing it. She could just jerk her tail back, slice his head off into like a lot of ideas. And it's like Narade, he's gonna be able to do something in retaliation, but it's not the same way that like he's good. It's clearly like he's in a bad spot, and she has the want to kill him. It's not like with her, she wants to take him back. Antares wants to take Geo back, but with Narade, she just wants to kill him. So I think that this is going to be one of those scenarios where, even though I would assume, and this, when the Galaxias anime comes out, I know that she's going to get a lot of shit for this scene, because like he's just like, she comes back, she's like, sweet, I can be helpful. She's literally chucking rocks at her. Granted, she did actually get like a hit in right into Antares' face when she wasn't expecting it. And the thing that you have to factually give her is that distracted her. It completely made her just go, okay, what? It wasn't like, bop, that did no damage, I'm gonna go through it anyway. She's just like, okay, what now? What now? You got to get away, and yet you come back. What now? We didn't even chase you yet. What? And Narade is like, takes a moment, spins, it does like a cool melee kind of move to get back on his feet. At the same time, he's like, why didn't you run? Like, he's clearly very like, fuck, why are you here right now? This is not the time or the place. She goes in for another attack, like Antares, and it cuts into Narade, like he goes for the full body block. And you see it in this page. This panel is, again, this is like where I was like, okay, this is a little bit more like heavy L than I anticipated for Geo's character. Because now she's going to be like, yeah, he got his arm cut off and he might be dead. I wonder if I saved him or not. But at the same time, I think this actually saved him. This is going to be one of those things where it sucks. It's going to be damaging for her. But I think when it comes down to it, for like Narade, when he wakes up, and later when they group back up and are able to reconvene, I think that he's going to be like, if it wasn't for her doing that, yeah, I lost an arm. I assume he's going to get his arm reattached. But it'd be really interesting if he didn't. Like, maybe he's just got one arm, and like he only makes the other arm like making his tail go in or something, or he gains regeneration power. I don't know. Either way, like, I assume his arm's going to be reattached, because it's not like it was obliterated; it was cut off. Her as a character, I assume her cuts are going to be so clean that, you could just slap it on there and stitch it together and do some fictional power work. Maybe there's a dragon healer they can run into. But with the two of them, like, I think that she gave him the moment to where Narade could get away. Because while they're just having the last couple little bits of fight, he like goes for like an attack. It just hits very shortly before her face. And I think just the speed, the power, the unpredictability of just like, yeah, you're barely on your last, breaths of life, and he just want to have that burst of like ferocity. and an animalistic just brutality that he's trying to put forth towards her would have just shocked her a bit. And I think in stuff like that, like the pressure of like the last couple of like movements and attacks going on, and then Schmidt comes out and like does like a smoke bomb, gets in there, and goes to cover in a raid. I think with stuff like that, where it's just like there was a couple last little ticks in the foundation of where they're at, that's what made it really crumble. Because she even mentions that, like, she even says like the foundation has taken too much damage, like it's not gonna hold any longer. I think that if Geo didn't come back, Narade probably would have died. Because again, there's always that like power awakening moment. But as far as we know, he wasn't going to have that occur. And I think that in a scenario like this, all that would have ultimately done is made it to where he's strong enough to where he can get away, and she's not going to be able to immediately follow. I see the gap between them, and it's very clear that she is much stronger than he is at the moment, and he's going to have to cover a lot of ground in order to get to that the level where the Antares and the other Zodiac are. It's again, she's only one of many. So I would assume that really like this is just a test, display of things, and we're gonna have to have some form of maybe not a time skip, but like little training prep thing, because I did not anticipate for Geo to get captured. I didn't anticipate for her to get captured, because the thing is, like, when a characters get captured like this, it's usually a little bit later along the way to where it's like, okay, squad up, now they're gonna, like, the crew's gonna come together, now the main cast needs to kind of really put in the effort. The main cast is really just Narade and Schmidt. Schmidt, as far as we know too, he's not like a direct deep fighter, like he's got combat skills, but like he's not gonna be one of those guys that like, let me fight one of these Zodiac. I would imagine maybe the story where they're going to either have to get in and intercept and stop this caravan before they get back to the capital. Otherwise, we're going to have some, like, Ichigo and Rukia Soul Society scenario where he's going to have to form his squad. He's going to have only so long until, like, her execution is set. It's probably going to be one of those, if I had to guess. Just because Narade is so hurt right now. He lost an arm. Is he going to get the arm back? Is he going to have to figure out how to fight with one arm? What's the scenario going to be like that for that? His recovery time for it. He's got to get stronger, obviously, in order to get back here. Because if he's going to be up against also multiple people within the same relative area of strength as Antares, he's going to have to be strong enough to where he can 1v1 her just fine. But on top of that, he needs to form a squad. Like, he needs to have a couple characters if it gets to that point. I think it'd be way too bad of a scenario right now. I think they're going to have to figure out how to get her away before they get anywhere, like, for sure, unless it's going to be one of those scenarios where you only have like 3 of the Zodiac at the time, so it's like, okay, well, we're only going to have like a fraction of like the full power, and maybe after that they're going to reconvene and kind of go from there. As if it gets to this point where it's like she takes them back to the capital, it's behind all these castle walls, all these guards, all these security measures and whatnot. And on top of that, you have all these powerful people that are pretty much all boss fights. I feel like that would be a little too much to happen. I think it'd be really cool if they were managed to save her before it gets to that point, and they end up having maybe something like that later down the line, and they actually capture her, and they're like, okay, well, they have X amount of time that before she's executed, that the characters have to go get her. Because I mean, like, we know their intent, we know that they're planning, we know exactly how things are kind of going from a baseline of their military, how they kind of look at everything. The obvious death of their king, going after the whole family. Like, there's clearly stuff in there that it's like, well, we know that if it gets to this point, like, she's kind of screwed, and I don't think that they can get to that spot right now. Because, like, the problem, and like, for instance, when you look at like Ichigo in the Soul Society arc, you had enough discourse that it was like it spread the characters out a little bit more. You had, well, I mean, you also had just more people on his side. Like, Ichigo had at least a couple people. Narade just has Schmidt. Maybe we'll get the kangaroo lady at some point. I doubt it. Maybe some of the other characters will come back. I doubt it. I just don't see anybody that's going to be a direct aid if it comes down to, like, we literally have to raid the capital. And plus, maybe it's a little too early for that. Maybe because, I mean, like, it is a bi-weekly series now, but I feel like already getting to, like, yeah, let's go to the capital and see all the other Zodiacs and just get to, like, the king and stuff. And this early, maybe, like, when we get in, like, the 50s or 60s or something. But anyway, it's at a point to where, like, I thought like we would get to a lot of the points that led up to right now in this recent chapter, but like the last like page or so I didn't anticipate. I did not anticipate her getting captured. So like that's for me like where I'm like, okay, well what exactly, like they have to stop the like train or whatever, car or whatever they're transporting with. They have to get that. They have to get it before they get to capital. Otherwise, like she is locked in, and we the only alternative I feel like is you have to have a set idea. Oh, in 2 months or something. And Narade has to form a squad. He has to go around look for people that he wants to put under him, or at least that will join him. Get like on top of Schmidt. They need like 2 to 3 other people. I think they need 2 to 3 other people in order to do this. And again, it's such a weird wrench to have her captured right now. I was not anticipating it. Because again, I know it happens pretty early in Bleach in comparison on the taking Rukia, but like Rukia's crimes, when you think about it, are not nearly even the close to the severity, because like she's getting blamed in association for killing a king. So it's like Rukia had some stuff going on. Obviously, there was some plot that related things that like exacerbated her sentencing. But I mean, Gio's already like one of the furthest crimes you could ever you could ever commit in a society like this. Like, hey, we were run by a king. What could be worse than killing the king? I guess killing the king's wife, killing the queen, killing like the king's children. Like outside of like doing something detrimentally horrible to the king or the royal family, I can't think of many things that would go into this that would make you say, okay, you hit the five. You've already got 5 stars in crime. Like you're already at the top. We can't make another star just for you. But solid chapter. I really liked it. I really like these last chapters. They read really fast, but like the pacing on it was really good for a lot of parts. Again, and just like like the end of the last chapter and then opening to this one is such a split-second feeling of just like when you look at it, because you see his arm cut in the end of the last chapter in blood, but you don't get the direct visual that it's severed. But the first panel into this is you see his arm flinging in the air, and then right after that, there's just a stream of blood coming down where his arm was. So it's very vicious just in the immediate result. And again, I feel like if you like for me, there was always set up that potential that she would fail, but I was like thinking maybe she's gonna get her powers a little bit, get her tail, do something to kind of like have a little bit of a character moment for her. No, she had a full L here. She took a full L, but I think personally, and we're probably not gonna get the confirmation on it for another another chapter or two, is that her doing this ultimately saved Narade's life, because I think if she didn't intervene, then Antares would have killed him. Like she would have just killed him, because she stopped for a moment, and they were able to get a little bit more of a back and forth before that ended up happening, and before he got his arm cut off. Which even for that, maybe like that attack might as well have also potentially damaged the Foundation. We don't see like a hit of it, but I would assume even if with her not making like the slash directly, just like the speed and power behind her swings would have at least a degree of like a force behind a shockwave of being by. Even if it's not sending people flying, I would assume, especially like plankton in the ground, you would probably like be able to feel that like just pulse through the foundation of the terrain that you're standing on, of your footing. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this chapter. Tell me if you are enjoying the bi-weekly. I think the bi-weekly really helps with the art too. I know the art has been really solid since it came out, but I think that like you're able to get more consistent, just kind of like cool little bits like this. I really like this panel, the way that it looks, especially like how she's like fully not even on the ground and she's going for that slash. Just looks really. But anyway, other than that, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. We got another chapter next week. I still gotta do Ichi the Witch and the Martial King, and then we'll be able to be caught up for the most part. I'll probably do those tomorrow, just because I want to get like 2 of these a day, and then it'll keep me kind of tasked. But anyway, other than that, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.